start with.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for having stayed this long. First of all, I would just like to thank everyone else who has spoken before me because, I mean, some of those speeches were just so heartwarming and it really, it was very emotional for some of them. Today, I'll try to make this as short as possible, but I will be speaking about two specific situations. First of all, I would like to speak about my experience in Rabaa. I spent a little bit over a month in Rabaa this summer before the violent dispersal. And then I would also like to give a first-hand account of the events in Egypt with a specific focus on women and children, specifically the violations of human rights against women and children. So first of all, without further ado, I would like to first explain why did I go to Rabaa. I mean, I live in France, I have a very privileged life in a clean country. Why would I go to a very confined space full of sweaty people chanting in Ramadan, in the really harsh heat, in a tent where there's barely any air and no refrigerators. So why did I keep going back? So in order to explain that, I would like to just explain my very first experience in Rabaa, the very first moment I walked inside. So the reason I actually decided to go was due to the fact that while watching the media, I would have called myself in the beginning a part of the Hizb al-Kanaba, where I just, the couch party, where you just sit in front of the TV and listen and watch the media all day without actually being active and just making your views according to the what you see on TV. But then suddenly I felt like things were just getting out of hand. I was being told that the Muslim Brotherhood members were killing each other in order to make people believe that it is the military killing them. This was after the Republican Guard massacre. So I started thinking, I was like, this can't be true. So I decided to go experience it for myself, to see what these kind of people are, to maybe interview some people in Rabaa. As soon as I walked into Rabaa, I can't really explain my feeling toward these people, but I felt a sense of comfort and respect. As soon as I walked in, I went during a Friday, it was the Millionaire, where there was a lot of people. I mean, I had never seen that many people in my entire life in a very confined space. The men, as I was walking, they would open the space for me, even though there wasn't much space, but they would open the space so that I wouldn't be touched by any men. Every woman that would see me would hug me, would tell me thank you for coming. I mean, I just felt a sense of respect, and I was just kind of confused. How are these people being called terrorists? How are these people being called that they have arms and that they are violent? Or I just didn't understand. My first experience in Rabaa was when I was supposed to go on stage and speak. I had been asked by my mother to go on stage and speak in French to send a message to the French government, not to speak with or to interact with the Egyptian legitimate government. So the first night I went there, I actually got lost and I had no idea where I was going. It was right after the prayer, Taraweeh. I had no idea what I was doing. And so someone saw me, this man, I will never forget this. This man, he was in ragged clothing, he was barefoot, had a blind eye, and he saw that I was lost. So he respectfully asked me, he said, "Are you lost? Where are you trying to go?" I told him, "I'm trying to go behind the stage and I can't find it. I can see the stage, but I can't find behind the stage. I don't know where to go." He was like, "Don't worry, I will take you." So usually it would take maybe like 2 or 3 minutes to get to this place, but with all the people, how crowded it was, it took us 25 minutes to get behind the stage. And at that moment I was supposed to be waiting for my mom to come see me. And at that point I took out a 20-pound bill. That was the only thing I had, the only money I had on me to give to the man. I mean he looked like he needed some money. As soon as I took the money out of my pocket, he looked at me and said, "I'm very upset with you right now." I was like, "I don't understand. Why are you upset with me?" He's like, "Because I didn't do this for your money. I did this because I want to know that you're going to be safe and that I will stay with you until your mother gets here." And that was the first moment I knew that Rabaa was bottom of my heart. I was actually supposed to be on vacation that summer. I was supposed to fly out to Dubai in a few days, where my dad lives. I decided to stay in Egypt for the rest of the summer because I knew that these people needed my help. I knew that this is where I was supposed to be, and that I had to stay there. And then, concerning some of the absurd media rhetoric, I'm going to speak a little bit about more of my personal experience concerning some of the media narratives. The first time I went on stage was that first night, so I spoke in French. The next day, a bunch of people came up to me and were like, "Nahla, you're all over the news. You know, I've read like 3 articles on you today in the state media journal, newspapers." And I was like, "Okay, great. Well, what are they saying?" Well, they didn't really talk about what you said on stage. They just made fun of your past. Yes, you heard that correctly. They made fun of my past. So the title of the articles was "A paid Muslim Brotherhood member wearing a fizon," which is a type of pants that they wore in the 80s or something like that. They called me Fatat al-Fizon. So even if you go on Google today and type in Fatat al-Fizon, you will see Al-Watan Yom al-Saba with an article written about my pants. So I mean, it just shows how absurd or how extreme the media can go concerning, I mean, individuals, just because that they were threatened by such a different image up on stage in Rabaa, because they had this image of every person going on stage or anyone in Rabaa being a Muslim Brotherhood member, completely covered. And so as soon as they saw someone completely different, they started becoming threatened by it because, well, essentially, I will be speaking to a different audience. And they were, well, what I was told is that they were threatened by that, and so they decided to just put it as start making fun of me so people wouldn't take me seriously. So that just encouraged me to keep going further and further, because after feeling that they were threatened by my existence, I believe that it was essential, very significant for me to keep going. So in the second part of my speech, I'll try to do this quickly. I just wanted to speak very, very quickly about the violations of human rights against women and children specifically, because I personally know, there were 3 girls that a family of 3 girls and a boy who I really got close to in Rabaa. Every single day we would eat iftar, pray together, we do everything together. I basically spent my entire time in Rabaa with them. And they were consequently jailed after the Ramses massacre, where they were helping some injured in the mosque, and they were taken into prison. The 3 girls who were all around my age, in early 20s, and the boy Ibrahim Halawa, who was 17, who was unjustly detained as well. Yes, thank you. So basically, a quick summary of some of the violations against the women's and children's. And so we have observed and recorded arrests of women in Egypt during the last few months, and specifically the months of December and January, which represented the period when there were many arrests and violations, including killings during the protests. The number of prisoners in 2 months reached 200 detentions of women in various parts of Egypt, and some of them were sentenced to several years in prison. University students have experienced various arrests. 35 students of Al-Azhar in Cairo were arrested inside or outside the campus, plus 2 students from Cairo University during the last clashes, and dozens of students from Zegazit University. So for example, I'll take one example of a 14-year-old minor from the village of Adakhaleya, was abducted on December 18, 2013 by thugs while participating in a human chain. The police had promised her release after signing papers, but after signing, Maria was surprised to see that she had signed for charges against her. And to this day, Maria is still in prison, despite her young age and despite her obvious innocence. Asma Hamdi, second-year dentistry, detained on the 24th of December 2013, was taken from inside her college campus. Asma and 19 other students were sentenced to 5 years and a fine of £100,000. their only crime being calling for freedom. So to finally wrap up this speech, I would like to thank all the human rights organizations for their follow-up on the events back in Egypt. However, I would like to add that once a system loses credibility and enacts crimes against humanity, such as the killing of children, women, and unarmed civilians, I find it hard to still pay credence to what they publish and report as a source of information. Any junta or dictator will seek to minimize the impact of human rights entities by misleading, misinformation, and outright lies. I would kindly ask that outright condemnation be clear and non-vague. Each day that passes by, there are still young women and men and women in prison waiting for their rights and families with loved ones gone on the hands of security services. I would just like to quote a friend that I met in Rawa as well, who's also in prison now. He said something that will always stick in my mind, is that you don't tell the person not to die, you tell the killer not to kill. And I feel like this is the narrative we have to use today in Egypt, because they keep blaming the people that are dying. They're not blaming the killer. I would also like to emphasize the fact that we are going to continue doing what we're doing, because and we're going to continue being peaceful, because our peace is stronger than their bullets.